All right, so let's take a look at creating patterns and blends in Illustrator. I've got a drawing of a figure here and a couple of these basic shapes I want to fill with a pattern, like a repeating striped pattern. So I'm going to show you how to create a pattern, at least get you started so then you can start to think about what's possible and exploring the options for creating patterns in Illustrator. And we're going to take a brief look at creating blends between one shape and another. It can be really handy. It can help you solve lots of problems. So let's start with a simple line that I've drawn here. So just a simple, line drawn with the line tool in Illustrator. I'm going to take this line and convert it to a shape. And that's done here in the object menu. You can take any stroke that you've applied to a line or a shape and go to the path submenu, go object, path, and then choose outline stroke. This can be really handy. In this case, I'm wanting to create a pattern, and I've got to place one line really, precisely next to another. It's easier done with a shape than a line, so that's why I'm converting it. But it can be really handy in other instances too. Okay, so I'm going to take a look at the size of this thing in my properties panel over here, and I need the width of this to be 0.05 inches. And again, I'm being really precise because sometimes with patterns you've got to make sure you do the math just right. So if I want to be able to create a pattern that has some level of accuracy, it's good to know what you're dealing with in terms of size. So I'm going to make it 0.05 inches wide, and let me see, got to unlock those, and I'm going to make this 2 inches high for now. Okay, so that's step one. Now I'm going to make a duplication of this. So I need an alternating stripe pattern. So I'm going to have a dark green next to a light green, and I'm going to fill the figure's shirt with that vertical stripe. So I'm going to jump to the outline mode, Command Y or Control Y on a PC. This allows me to be very precise if I need to be. One thing that also helps is to hide the bounding box. The shortcut for that is Command Shift B or Control Shift B. That'll temporarily turn off the bounding box for you. Okay, so I'm going to make a copy of my object here, right next to the first one. So I'm going to hold down the Option key. Remember, the Option key copies stuff, and I'm going to hold down Shift also to drag it in a straight line. And again, when you're in outline mode, it's real easy to see that you've got it just right. So I'm going to leave outline mode now, Command Y, and I see I've got two of these side by side. I'm going to change the color of the second fill to a light green, like so. Okay, so there's my basic stripe. And I'm going to now select both of those, and I'm going to group them together. Command G will group them. And now I'm going to turn this into a pattern. So Object, Pattern, Make. Now we enter, this making of a pattern mode. It's a lot like isolation. Everything else will be grayed out, and we're just going to be focused on creating this pattern, and it tells you that here. So it shows me my original artwork and kind of a screened back area where it's being duplicated. Okay, I'm going to take a look at the tile types, right? Patterns are made up of tiles, and I can change from grid to hex or brick, and depending on what it is that you're making your pattern out of, you may have luck changing that tile type. So down below here is the width and height of that tile, and so if I were to leave it with the exact width and height that I first initially created it with, it should be fine. But you can take a look at whether or not sizing the tile to the art will work in your instance. Moving the tile with the art is another option. So explore what you need for your particular instance. You can even, if you're having trouble with the tiles lining up just right, you can take a look at these overlap options, right, left, right, in front, etc. And just below that will be copies, right? Like I could just stick with simple a 1-by-1 copy. Since I've been pretty precise with it, it should work and just repeat itself perpetually. But if you need to, again, depending on the artwork, you can change the number of copies of that tile that you're dealing with, right? So I'm just going to leave mine at 1-by-1 because I know it's fairly simple and it should repeat just fine. Okay, so there you have it. It's just a basic pattern. Now, when you're done making your pattern, come up here to the top of the interface and click the Done button. And you're going to notice it adds your stripes or your pattern, whatever you named it, to your swatches, right? Okay, so here's the moment of truth. I'm going to zoom out a little bit here, and I'm going to select his shirt, which is part of a group, so I'm using the direct select tool to select it. Okay, so I'm going to go to my swatches and choose my stripes pattern, and voila, it worked. Okay, so now he has a stripy shirt on. Very fashionable. Okay, so let's turn our attention now to creating a diagonal stripe, which is a little more complicated, and really the reason why to kind of be precise and do a little bit of math ahead of time if you want your patterns to turn out right. So diagonal is a little more tricky, and we need to make sure that the stripes are consistent. So I'm going to create a blend from these same stripes and rotate them 45 degrees. It's a little tricky, but we can do it. Okay, so I'm going to grab my group here, and in order to do this, I'm going to actually create a blend. And so just a quick word about blends. Like if you have two objects, for instance, or you can choose more than two in a blend, but we'll keep it simple for now. I'm going to select those two objects, go to the object menu, and choose blend, and take a look at the blend options. Let me see what they're set for. Right now, they're set to go a certain distance, right? Well, a certain number of steps. In this case, 13 steps, because I know I've used this before. I know that's what I'm going to need to create my diagonal stripes. So that's what it's going to do. So it's set up to blend that way. Now, the shortcut for blending one object to another, well, let me show you here first. Object, blend, make. The shortcut is Command Option B or Control Alt B on a PC, right? So Command Option B. Okay, so it creates a blend, a graduated blend in steps from one to the other. And you can see going from dark green to light green, it's almost like applying a gradient across between these two shapes. The nice thing about this, though, is I can get the direct select tool and grab one of those shapes and move it, and the blend moves with it. Right? Pretty cool. Okay, now you can also, I'm going to back up here, you can also make a smooth blend. In fact, I'm going to get rid of the strokes. Like if you've got strokes on your objects, they will affect the blend. So I'm going to switch to my stroke color and hit the slash key to get rid of that, right? Or you can click right here to get like no fill. Okay, so now I'm going to blend these with a smooth blend option. So again, object blend, go to your options, choose smooth color, Command Option B, right? Smooth blend. Again, it's very similar to just having a gradient, but again, the nice thing is you can adjust the position of those original shapes, and it modifies the look of your blend. Okay, so back to creating our pattern. So if I've got my original group here, let me zoom in a bit. I'm going to use a rectangle to help me keep my objects aligned. So I'm going to create a 1-inch rectangle, right? And I'm gonna rotate my group 45 degrees, right? Okay, so now in order to be really precise, once again, I'm going to enter outline mode, so Command Y or Control Y. And what I'm going to do is make sure that in order to get this to line up just right, I'm going to select my group of stripes I got to hold my mouth just right. And get it to line up. What I want is this left stripe center to be centered on this bottom anchor point. Okay, so you may have to finagle it a bit to get it to show you that halfway point. All right, so I need to duplicate this to the other side now. So I'm basically going to grab that, hold down Option and Shift, and do the same thing up here. Like so. Okay. That's the tricky part, really. Even in outline mode, sometimes getting that precisely placed can be kind of difficult. So, all right, let me zoom out a little bit here. And I'm going to exit outline mode now, Command Y. Okay, so I've got my two diagonal groups of stripes, and I've got my square in between. Now I'm gonna move that behind those. Okay, so let's use the blend function to make copies in between, and then we'll turn that into our pattern. All right, so remember, last time I made a blend, it was smooth, and this time I want to make specified steps. So I have to go back to my blend options, choose specified steps, and I've worked it out to 13, but I'm going to show you, like, what if I did 10? And then Command Option B to blend. See, it's not filling in the gaps. So again, I kind of did this through trial and error. Once again, like if I go, Object, Blend, go to Options, Specified Steps, I could like go up to 11 or 12, figure it out, but 13 is the right number. So it may take a little trial and error on your part, but Command Option B to blend. That gets rid of all those gaps in between, right? Now, with my blend selected, I'm going to, once again, go to the Object menu, choose Pattern, Make. Okay, so once again, I'm going to choose Grid, although, again, I could try these other options to see how they might tile, right? There we go, back to Grid. So I'm going to, because I set this up on a 1-inch square, I'm going to change the width and height of my tile to 1-inch square, right? And, again, number of copies, I could put 5 by 5 or, 9 by 9 if I really, but in this case, again, I've set it up, I've done the math, it should be fine at 1 by 1 and it'll just repeat, okay? So once again, when I'm done creating my pattern, I'm going to tell Illustrator I'm done. And once again, if I look in my swatches here, oh, I didn't name it. That's bad. I'll have to go back and rename that. So here's my diagonal stripe pattern in my swatches. Let's come over here. And select this magenta shape that I've drawn for hair and beard. And fill it with our new, oh, wait, I got the stroke selected instead of the fill, so I've got to switch to the fill. There we go. All right, there you have it. Using patterns, using blends in Illustrator, instead of the plain Jane old solid fill or gradient fill, spice things up, create a pattern, and fill a shape with it. See where it takes you. All right, good luck.